On March 24th, 1970, Buddy Baker Jr. was the first person to go 200 miles an hour on a NASCAR track. He was driving a '69 Charger Daytona. Now, in order for those cars to compete at NASCAR, Dodge had to build 500, at least, of those cars. At the end of the day, they built 503. This is one of those cars.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
In Springfield, Oregon, dead Mopar muscle cars are coming back to life. Restored by Mopar master Mark Warman. Joined by his out-of-this-world cousin Dougie.
Oh, hi, Mark.
His apprentice and daughter, Alyssa.
Whoa, whoa, stop.
And his childhood best friend, Royal.
Mark hates everybody.
His protege painter, Will Scott.
You got one job.
This is Graveyard Carz.
When you're talking the world of rare muscle cars, I don't care if it's a Ford, a Chevy, a Pontiac, a AMC, a Mopar, when you start getting under 1,000 versions of something built, you're talking about a very low demographic. In the case of the Daytona Charger, there were 503. Now, there is some report between 500 and 503, but the last I heard it was 503. Of those 503, remember the 440 Magnum was standard. The 426 Hemi was optional. So this had a 440 Magnum with an automatic transmission. That meant there were 294 of these cars built. You know, when I first had the conversation with these folks about the car, I suspected, based on the photos and their description, that it was a fairly clean original car. That's unusual in the world of these Daytonas and Superbirds, the supercars. Usually people have been there before. They've already had their hands on it. They've done things to it. This car was represented to be mostly original. And when it got here, it was mostly original. This is truly a time capsule.
This was quite an experience working on this Daytona Charger. This was an all-original high school car. It was in amazingly good condition.
I was absolutely enthralled with all of the detailing items that I was able to photograph that I knew would come in handy not only when it came time to put the car back together again, but for other people who might be doing a Daytona Charger. So as I went around the car, it really dawned on me that this was a car that I needed some input from Tony, my friend Tony D'Agostino, Mopar Parts. Tony owned one of these cars that had done amazingly well at the show circuit. It was a beautiful car. Mike Mancini at Instrument Specialties is the guy that restored that car for him. Tony, having so much knowledge of the Daytonas, plus a personal one, I really wanted him to come out here with me because ultimately I'd like to make the decision, should I try to talk these people out of restoring it? Is there that much authenticity and that much one time through that you can't ever change again on this car that I should make that phone call? So I had him out and we combed that car from bumper to bumper. So when a car like that comes to me, an OE specialist, and it is so chocked with original DNA, it's a gift. Absolutely. And I fell in love with these cars when I was really young, and I don't remember exactly how old. I think I was probably 11 or 12. There was a magazine that featured a '69 Hemi Charger Daytona in it, and I wish I could remember, but I think it was Hot Rod Magazine. And it was a guy with a tape measure standing next to it showing the height of the Daytona spoiler. I was just amazed at that thing. I remember the caption. The guy was quoted that owned the car that said it idled like a coffee can full of rocks. That has stuck with me all these years. That was the day I fell in love with these cars. So during the inspection of the car, the things that I noticed and Tony agreed with, it looked like the nose cone had been replaced at some point. Now that's not uncommon for those cars. That nose stuck out a long ways and all it would take is to pull up too close to a parking area and bump into a pole or bump into another car. So that did not surprise me. The paint that had been done on the car looked like it was the paint that was done at Creative Industries when the car was converted from a Charger RT to a Daytona. The wing was original, all the bracketry that held it in place was original. The chrome, the glass, the interior trim and ornamentation, all original on this car. The seats were in nice shape except for the driver's seat, which showed wear on the bottom of the driver's seat. The carpeting had been replaced at some point in its life. The door trim panels were beautiful, the dash was beautiful, all the instrumentation was intact and in nice shape. The flip-top gas cap was the original. The decals and graphics were original, and it was interesting as I was looking at this car, that big bumblebee stripe that goes around the back, the big Daytona stripe. It was so poorly installed, none of the intersections lined up on them. This was factory stuff. And you could see the way the deck lid fit. It had to fit how it fit. You couldn't have moved it either way, so it's not like later somebody readjusted the deck lid and that's why the stripe didn't fit. They just put it on that poorly. And there could be some shrinkage with the decal, possibly shrinking back, but you would think it would all shrink back at the same rate. If the quarter panel shrunk and the trunk lid shrunk, they should still be lined up. I think it was just poor mass manufacturing for a car that only had a few months to be built to be able to race at NASCAR. And so for me, one of the best little treasures I found in it, and Tony has this kind of stuff so it wasn't as exciting to him, but the original bottle of touch-up paint was still in the glove box. The original Chrysler Mopar, the stuff you would have got in the parts room back in the day, was in the glove box. And interestingly, of course it's called Hemi Orange, that's the color. The code in 1969 was V2, Victor 2. Because it was the first year for Hemi Orange. Hemi Orange was still available in 1970, so the paint code was EV2, E representing 69. It let people know that this wasn't the first year for the color was available a year before it. But this being a real 69 and being a real V2 car, that code on that bottle showing that they bought it in the parts room in 69 was V2. Another thing that for me was fun on the car from the time it got here was that it was a running, driving car. Most graveyard cars are not running, driving cars. They're dead. They're graveyard. That's how I earned the moniker The Undertaker, is bringing these dead cars back to life. But this car was a running, driving car. So we were able to go out and do some things with it and drive it and get a feel for the car, which was a lot of fun. Now, the thing about the car was there were things on it that are called second day, meaning that when you went down and bought the Charger Daytona when it was brand new, it would have had a factory wheel and tire setup on it. This guy went right out and he put a 5-slot mag on it. Cool. I think there were 15/8s in the back and 15/7s in the front. Great big wide meats. I think there were L60s in the back, bias ply tires. That all takes me so back to when we were kids. Well, when Dougie was a kid, because he had all that stuff. I didn't. I had one 5-slot wheel on the left rear of my car. I might have had another one on the right rear, but it wasn't the same width. I had Mojoc white spoke wheels on the front of it. Because remember, I wasn't a spooner. You know, I worked for everything. I was only 13 years old when I had my first job, and Dougie he'd go up to his daddy, hey, give me some wheels and tires, and his daddy give him wheels and tires. M-O-O-N, that spells spooner.
Original owner?
Original owner car, has had it its entire life. So anytime my friend Tony comes out, we always have a lot of fun. We like busting each other's chops, competing to see who knows more and that kind of thing. You guys remember in the past we've had competitions for that, and I don't want to say who won, but you know, it is what it is, right? You know what you know, so there's not much you can do about that. Looking at the detail items underneath the hood, we could see a lot of overspray. Now, that wouldn't happen, typically speaking, at the factory. But in this case, because they changed the hood and the fenders, put the nose cone on it, the spoiler, they put the back window flush mount piece in, it looks like something somebody did in their garage. The masking was poorly done, under-masking, over-masking, lots of overspray on all the adjacent pieces underneath the hood. It was fun to walk around it with Tony and try to figure out, now is this just a bad paint job that somebody did in the 70s, or was this the work of creative industries? This is the kind of thing that we have so much fun doing. And the other thing is that I always learn something when Tony's out. He is a very knowledgeable guy. Like the dipstick being painted black, I don't know why I didn't realize that, but I didn't. The spines on the battery cables to show that they're original and they're not the reproductions. Again, great detailing tips.
But that's how to tell with a little spine.
I feel it.
A seam.
I did not know that. So Tony and I did, in the end, we agreed it should be restored for a couple of reasons. One, it wasn't necessarily in 100% survivor condition. Enough stuff would need to be fixed on it that you almost couldn't say it was a survivor anymore. And we weren't sure on a couple of areas that had been worked on. And then the fact that the owner had had it since it was new. He's seen it in this condition for 50 years. He's willing to spend the money to have the car restored. That's what we decided to do. One really fun thing that we got to do with this car that I've never done before or since is we had a fan stop by who had just bought a Hellcat Challenger. He was bragging about it, putting out 707 horsepower. This is the first days of the Hellcat. So I just had the idea, get hold of this guy over in Eugene, take my car and the Hellcat over and find out really what each one of them does as far as brake horsepower. The Daytona, and I remember, almost 4,000-pound car, it's got a 375 horsepower. That's how it's rated at the crankshaft, 375 horsepower. But how much does it put to the ground, especially now that it's older and now that it's worn out a little bit? So when we ran that car on the dyno, it put out 205 horsepower to the ground, I think at about 5,000 RPM. That's amazing considering, like today, I drive a Hellcat Red Eye Challenger that puts 797 horsepower to the ground. It's unbelievable the difference in technology. And that's a small block, by the way. The Hellcat Challenger, it was putting out right at 700. They thought that it would go to the 707 if they could have got the intercooler cooler. The air coming in was real hot that day, so they couldn't get it down, get the temperature down. So it was putting out right about 700 horsepower. But that's amazing, again, to the ground out of a small block. It was really fascinating to be able to take that car out, go across the scales, go over and have it dynoed, and just drive it like we used to back in the day. A lot of fun.
In the case of dismantling this Daytona Charger, it's just basically the same car as a Charger RT. We just wanted to spend a lot more time on documenting this as we took it apart. We want to save everything we can to keep this car original when we go back together. Really interesting to take this car apart and see how it was all put together. I've never pulled the nose cone off a Daytona, nor the wing. There were some surprises involved in all that.
Look under your side. Oh yeah, what was going on in there?
What is it?
When Dave and I lifted the rear wing off this car, I was really impressed with the amount of corrosion that had dropped out of the top of the wing onto the fender. There was a big buildup. Looked like a mouse nest in there also, but electrolysis from the aluminum from sitting hot and cold weather all these years. Kind of interesting to see that under that wing because that's the first wing I've ever lifted off a Daytona Charger before. Upon removing the back seat, we did find half the broadcast sheet. Looks like the mice got the other half, unfortunately.
This is what we call gold, Jerry. This is gold.
Banya, Seinfeld.
Mark says we might have another source for another broadcast sheet. Let's hope we find that one, and that'll give us a lot of clues to what we're doing with this car.
I really loved working on the Daytona. It's a really awesome car. I loved seeing my dad do the documentation on it. I thought it was hilarious that he actually got out a couple of quarters and was checking the gaps.
What I'm doing right now is using these quarters to establish scale, like how wide is the gap between the fender and the hood before we take it off. We'll never know that again. We'll never know it.
I mean, it's a little bit crazy, but I love them.
I have 2 quarters, and they are literally, I can't wedge them down in there. But I come to the front, and I can clearly put them both in there. So as I run it like this, I can feel it starting to get tighter and tighter, and right there is where it begins to sink in.
It was fun to watch my dad nerd out, especially on the hoses. I actually used some of that information when we went to reassemble the car.
Take a look at these vacuum lines. If you look, you can see ribs in there. It's smooth over here, but you have those ribs right across there. See the multi-ribs right through here? Now the back side again is smooth, but when you hold that out there, you go at a car show and you take a look, if it doesn't have those ribs in it, then it's a reproduction.
Yeah, it went really smooth and amazing car. Really enjoyed working on this one.
In a previous season of Graveyard Cars, we restored this gorgeous 1970 Plymouth Roadrunner. It was a factory FY1 lemon twist yellow, and it had the original numbers matching engine. What engine was in that car? Was it the 383, 446 barrel, or the legendary 426 Hemi? If you think you remember, stay tuned after the break. I'll let you know how you did. Welcome back, ghouls. How'd you do on that one? What engine did our 1970 Plymouth Roadrunner have from the factory? If you said 426 Hemi, you were wrong. Absolutely not. That would be a pretty rare one right there. This car featured the 383 Roadrunner engine, unique to the Roadrunner. In addition to that, it had a pistol grip 4-speed shifter, hood pin tie-downs, dust trail stripe, and cold air induction hood in '96.
One of the cool cars that Mark had when I was a kid, I believe was a 70 Superbird. It was a cool car because they're so unique. You know, with the nose, the wing, you'd never seen anything like it before. So doing this Daytona now, it kind of is exciting because while it's a different car, it's still a winged car. It's going the Hemi Orange, which is pretty common, but I've never sprayed a nose, I've never sprayed a wing. So doing a car like this, it's kind of iconic for me personally because I've been around them so long and this is just now my first one. Because it still is a Charger, this car has a lot of style lines. Give it back to the body man for the next block, and at that point, I'll go out there with them. No, that side looks really good, for sure. It's straight. I think you need a little fine tuning on your lines, just tighten them up a little bit. Just go over them, get familiar with the car, kind of explain some things that I've run into, because it's still, at the end of the day, is a Charger. So I've done a few of those, so I can say, hey, you know, you're blocking this line, but make sure you pay attention to this right down here. This is a problem area. So I like to make sure I have that one-on-one time with my guys. Just because it's the Daytona doesn't mean it gets any special treatment. Only difference on this car, it was a clean car to start with. So when it goes out to metal work, when it goes out to the body shop, the process is a little bit quicker. So the body man has the car. It's been primed, we've talked about it. It's time for him to start blocking it. He'll block the whole entire car, make sure his lines are crisp and straight with 120. At that point, I'll go out there and sign off on it, make sure it looks good. It comes to me, we will primer the whole car again. Make sure we've got everything dialed in. Then it will go back, he'll block the car out again with 220, bring the car back to me again, and then we'll prime it for the final time. We get the car back, we've done our final primer, let that dry for a week, and at that point, we'll bring it back into the shop, mask all of our lines, and we do that from start to finish to maintain how crisp they are. Block the whole entire car out with 320, then we will go over it with 400. It's a metallic car, but it's a very fine metallic, so we don't need to go anything past 400. At that point, we get it in the booth, get it ready. I'll seal the whole entire car. That'll fill all those little 400 scratches. Mark's always done the pre-paints for a number of years. He likes it, I get it. It does allow you to kind of cut some super small corners. If you're not sure if something's gonna come out great, it's just a pre-paint, so we'll see how it looks. But we've reversed that. You know, now we have a really, really good team here. So we just stop, spend an extra week or two on a car, and then just go right to final paint. When it comes to a metallic, you can't do it in single stage. You know, it'll model, it'll look zebra striped. It's very important you lay that metallic out. On this particular car, Hemi Orange, the metallic is so fine that you can't even see it unless you're in a certain light. You can get away with it on this metallic only, but other cars you just can't. And this was the last Hemi Orange EV2 that I did in a single stage. When Hemi Orange is a single stage, it's 3 coats and it's covered. And it's such a big car, by the time you get around the whole entire car, you're almost ready for your second coat. So doing this color in single stage, you can knock out a complete paint job in just an hour, 2 hours tops. Two-tones on some of these B-bodies are kind of tricky because they're a completely different color. Sometimes you have a formula, sometimes you don't. One of the great things about this company, we have 100 cars here. If Mark says, hey, it needs to go this color, go check out this car, here's where it's at. I can grab that part, bring it in, and if I can't get a color code to it, then I can just scratch build the color myself and then do that car based off another car that we have out there. There's 2 types of people that can do this. There's Mark, and then there's my helper, Noah. If I give Mark a single stage Hemi Orange car to buff, he puts his white coat on, He puts a gallon of compound on it. He grabs a buffer. He cranks that up as high as it goes. He puts that buffer on there, spits compound everywhere, burns the panel, and said, how could you do this? That's Mark's method. Noah, who I've trained over the past year and a half how to do this, very meticulous, little compound, low RPMs. And when you do it that way, you can buff it without moving the metallic. Because it's a single stage, that metallic's on top. So when you go do it Mark's way, it swirls that metallic around and it looks like a burn spot. When you do it my way or Noah's way, we can do it in single stage and just finesse it out. You know, it was a great car to start with. The whole process went good. Everyone really took their time. The car came out amazing.
Once Will had the paint work done, we needed to be able to get it out and have the headliner put in it. To be able to have the headliner put in it, it's got to be a mobile vehicle. So we put the drivetrain in it. I rounded up all my favorite guys to work with, and we put the 440, the automatic, and the 8 3/4 rear end in it.
A hair back to the driver's side.
Yours or ours?
Which driver's side? The real driver's side this time.
Okay.
So in the case of the deep dish aluminum wheels that were on this car, Mark had those on his Charger back in the day too. I preferred the appliance steel 5-spoke wheels myself.
Yeah, I had 5-slot mags, like I mentioned. I don't think they all matched. I think I had 8-inch in the back, 15x8s, and maybe, well, in the front I had white Mojock wheels off of a wagon train or something, or off a Jeep. I didn't have any money. I didn't get the rich daddy option like Dougie did, where he got brand new appliance 5 spokes and BF Goodrich's for his Barracuda, or the new Barracuda for that matter. No, I got the option of the rare disease of Osgood slaughter in the left knee region, and the optional fibroma tumor in my right foot between my big toe and my index toe. I had the dead dad, and I had 8 broken crayons. That's why I'm colorblind today and can't see anything. My wheels didn't match, but I did have 2 5-slots. So, you know, that's a real knee slapper, right?
I just wanted to point out how these are my favorite tires right here.
Oh yeah.
BF Goodrich Radial TA.
Yep.
My favorite tires.
The ones your daddy bought you when you were a kid. Yep.
I bought
Okay,
them.
you want to go pop those out real quick?
One of the last components we have to do after the dash is installed is the steering column. Now, Justin has been restoring our steering columns here for a couple of years. Does a fantastic job. We use the original nitrocellulose lacquer with suede in it. We get it from Mike Mancini, so it matches the dash. We put in new bearing columns. We put in new turn signal switches. All of the wiring, the routing, the turn signal lever, all of that stuff is completely new or restored. He does a fantastic job on that.
My dad has me running around and doing a lot of different things around here, but I totally don't mind. It is nice when I get to actually work on the cars though. And I'm not totally clueless. I know my way around a little bit. I helped Justin apply the sound deadener in a few cars.
It was requested by the owner, so keep that in mind. Yes, it's not OEM, but this makes a car so much better driver. You can put the sound deadener everywhere in the car, in my opinion, except where you see it. So you wouldn't want it on the insides of the quarter panels, that's fine. You wouldn't want it on the wheelhouses where you can see it. But if it's hidden, put it on there. In this case, we've got Justin and Alyssa working together, who have really become a sharp team.
So maybe I can just get Alyssa out here to help me with all of them.
No, I don't mind helping.
Too far? Too
No,
far?
I can help, I'll help. No problem.
Everything went smooth. Alyssa did an amazing job. She just kind of mimicked what I did on the other side. So couldn't ask for a better partner to help out with this.
So the sound deadener makes a big difference. Without it, the car sounds really tinny and there's a lot of road noise. So when I build my Challenger, I'll definitely be putting sound deadener in.
Justin did a great job putting the nose cone together on the car. There's a lot of pieces inside there. It's very intricate.
So one of the cool and interesting things, well, it might not be cool to everybody, but for me was the nose cone. Taking that thing apart, just seeing how everything goes together basically in a reverse fashion. I didn't realize how complex they actually were. It was really good just to be able to see exactly how they did that at Creative Industries. So being able to take each piece apart, label it, and then, snap a picture of how that went on there, it really just helped me out in the long run on putting that thing back together. And I thought another cool feature of that was they are spring-loaded. The headlight doors are actually spring-loaded to stay open, and they're vacuum kept down. Just in case your vacuum lines go out on you, it's gonna default to up. So if you're driving at night, you still got headlights.
He was working on these cars when he was young, when he was growing up, because his dad was into these.
So growing up my whole life, my dad has been building Daytona tributes or clones, some people call them. Well, my grandpa was even making them before my dad was. I think I was probably born into Daytona.
So him and his dad would work the weekends on these cars, and I didn't get that, obviously, because mine was dead. I didn't have the cars either, because we didn't have any money.
Just being able to kind of use the knowledge that I've learned with my dad in these cars, I build these wings myself at home, but seeing a true original Daytona wing, there's just nothing like it. It's really cool.
So I think he's basically what the CCR would refer to as the fortunate son. M-O-O-N, that spells CCR. One thing I just want to take a minute and mention is how much I've enjoyed working with Alyssa from the time we started the show almost 10 years ago to now, because she's really evolved. She cares more now.
I have to say it's a lot of fun working here at the shop. For a long time, I really didn't have a lot of interest in cars, but through the years and watching my dad and all of his passion for putting these cars back on the road, it's kind of grown in me as well.
She is my right-hand man lefty around here. She just is everywhere, and working with her is a blessing.
And even though it gets really stressful working here every single day, there's so much at stake, I wouldn't change it.
And she just had her third little girl, little Topaz. I love her, she's adorable. Her name is Topaz.
Mark, it's actually Capri.
Yeah, it's Capri, it's whatever. It's a Mercury product. I tried to talk her out of that. It didn't make any sense. There's a beautiful little child, and you rock it in your arms. Oh gosh, beautiful, look at those eyes, look at what are we gonna call it? How about Capri? M-O-O-N spells Capri, I guess.
It's great to be back again, helping with the exhaust systems. Really nice, the attention to detail that ECS has. All the turns, mandrel bends, they're just beautiful.
I was shocked at how quickly this car got put together, especially after the paint got done. It turned out gorgeous.
Seeing the Daytona finished is one of the coolest things. It came out beautiful. I love the Hemi orange that the car was. I wish it did have a white wing on it, but the black one is still pretty awesome. But the overall quality of this car is top notch.
This car came out fantastic. One of my favorite parts of any build is when I get to go drive it. Get out there and put the pedal to the metal. Drop the hammer on that thing. It is so much fun. All right, everybody, doing a road test in our 69 Daytona. First time out. Feels good. Just got it aligned, so we know the alignment's set. Feels tight. These cars really are a unique time capsule. When you drive it down the road, you cannot help but get thumbs up and looks. I mean, it is a rare car, it's a big car, and it's in your face. So knowing that everything on this car is the way it's supposed to be, my best part of the job is picking up the phone and letting the owners know it is done, the original owners, very unusual, and they can come out and check it out. Slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down. One thing when I'm driving these cars is I like to pace myself with our camera van at about 20 miles an hour, 25. It looks like you're going faster, right? But we've got a new driver, a little tiny dancer. You remember him a few years ago, a little tiny guy, about 3 feet tall. He used to run our audio. Great guy, but he's a lunatic behind the steering wheel. He gets in there and he drops that hammer all the way to the floor, and he doesn't understand the concept. It is not healthy or safe to film at 90, especially if the speed limit's 35. So all the footage that you see, I've got my foot almost to the wood trying to keep up with him, and he won't listen to the radio. I say, Tiny Dancer, come in. And he won't come in. You know what that's like? So basically, I'm driving a 69 Dodge Charger. Just happens to be a Daytona version, 1 of 503. Brakes feel good. Steering's pretty tight. Our guys up at Firmfield always do a stage 2 rebuild on these, which give them a lot firmer feel than they were from the factory. It's more responsive. Any of you that have driven an old Mopar know that sometimes that's real sloppy, that power steering, like you can do it with one finger. This one has a little bit more resistance to it. That feels good. Speedometer's working well. All right, we're gonna turn around here. Let's check the turning radius out on this bad boy. All right, get turned around. Headlights are working great. I can see the reflection in front of me, very nice. Instrument Specialties did our dash assembly. It looks really good. Everything's functioning good. Oil pressure, temperature, fuel, alternator working like it should. Turn those down and go back to just park lamps. Got to have some cool stud lights going on there. Let's run through some manual gears here. Got it down so if you can see I'm in low, manual low. Want to see how it performs that way. That's how I used to drive my old Charger, like it was a stick. Boy, that feels good. Boy, that's a lot of torque. Speedometer, no shaking, no rattling, no rolling, setting right at 25. I like to think of myself as a friend first, boss probably second, and entertainer third. So that's David Brent from The Office, the actual funny one, the funny version that was done for 2 seasons plus a Christmas special with Richard Gervais. Got to make a little love to the camera once in a while. You know what I'm saying? There's second, nice shift. There's drive right there. That feels great. Man, this feels tight, feels good. I got no problem. Let's check that radio. I don't like the rock, but I'm digging steeple shimmy. A Fords ain't my bag, I'd rather drive a Hemi. Rolling through the gears, don't give me none your lip. My favorite kind of shifter is a pistol grip. Turn my headphones up, man. Nah, I'm serious, I can't hear out this headphone. Bow ties off with sissies. Like Cousin Eddie, real nice. That feels good. Solid. Good solid burnout. All right, folks, we got a 69 Charger Daytona rocking and rolling, turning and burning. Ready to head out on the highway. Going home to Florida. In a previous season of Graveyard Cars, we restored this stunning, adorable 1970 Barracuda convertible. True or false, the factory engine was a 318. If you think you remember, stay tuned after the break. I'll let you know how you did. All right, ghouls, how did you do on that one? True or false, this little 1970 Barracuda was a factory 318. If you said true, you're wrong and you never saw the episode. This car is one of 59 made with a 383 two-barrel. It also featured an automatic transmission, manual convertible top, matching black interior, and it also featured air conditioning. Once I got back from the road test, the first thing I did was went in and called the owners. They're down in Florida, let them know it is done, you are green light to go. They were booked on the next airplane out here. I have been waiting forever to hear the entire story of this car and how it got into their family and how it spent 50 years in the family. Again, one of the best parts of my job.
My name is Michael Walton.
Mine's Julie Walton.
My dad had this guy, this dealer, call him on a car that somebody had ordered, and they decided they wanted a car earlier because they're going on a trip. He had this car, so I went in with them, and I was 16 years old. We looked at it, and I liked the car, and he thought it was kind of unusual, and he decided not to get it. So I went home, and then the next day from school, I come home, and he had bought the car and had it there for me.
So he bought the car for you?
Yeah. You know, when I was 16, I went through Wisconsin into Ohio, and then from Ohio went to Florida, and then I went to school in Fort Myers High in Florida.
High school. Didn't get that option. Nope. If you look back through the 1980 Springfield High School Miller's Log, I had to buy on eBay because I didn't get one because I didn't go. And you go to the senior class, you see here in the W section, Warman would be right in here, and there's no Warman in there. It's so weird. I'm just oh, no, that's right. My father had passed away at that time, and we had a limited income, so I ended up having to quit school, tend to the tumor in my foot, and get a job washing cars so I could help out with the family. No graduation ceremony for me, no robe and hat in the air. Surgery on my foot. Touch and go, almost had to amputate it. They thought it was cancer. It turned out it was benign. Thank you, Lord, Mom, for praying. So, those are my golden years.
Well, I was 17 when we started dating, and we eventually then went and run off and got married in the car. We went to South Dakota.
My first girlfriend stabbed me in the back.
On the way to South Dakota,
had an affair with a guy in Washington, big corn-fed, backwoods-ass Sasquatch-looking thing. That's what I got.
Well, I was going to school in a little small town in North Dakota, and his family had just bought a farm, and they were there for the school year, and he was bringing his sister.
And my dad bought a farm, too, June 25th, 1975.
I saw him drive by. And, of course, he looked like he was pretty stuck up driving that car. But anyway, we kind of got together and dated. And
Spooner.
We did run off to South Dakota. So on the way down, he's driving through a little town, sees a carload of girls, and he starts
waving at them. It's just a perfect little world, isn't it?
No.
Yes, he says this, but he keeps
all
telling
I seen
himself.
Was hands
yeah,
waving.
he keeps telling him that himself that
so
to
I
make
waved
himself.
back.
I saw those too.
Yeah.
Of course,
the
I
funeral.
knew I was in trouble once I seen.
Ever been a pallbearer in your own dad's funeral?
With this car, people would wave or recognize you, you know, and I'd always wave back, and you know, but it was.
He's always liked the attention.
It already drew attention.
But that was in '72, and we're still married, going on 49 years. So, we watched the show, you know, and I knew he wanted the car redone, so it was a surprise for him. The only problem is we couldn't get the car without him. So Mark set it up where he called, and then surprised Mike on the phone, and told him we were redoing the car. Because Mike had to be the one to start the car to get it loaded. It was a surprise for him.
I was happy because I knew that he would do a good job. I was surprised, yeah, and I was glad he was doing it.
What is your fondest memory in the car, in general?
I'd have to say when he first picked me up for our first date, he brought the car and went to a dance, didn't we?
Yeah.
School dance.
Yeah, my first date, my brake pedal bounced off the floor of the car. Did a Brody in their front yard and ripped up the old lady's favorite flower.
Sorry.
We run back to get my mom's Impala and take her out on a date.
In Florida. My mom had a Plymouth Superbird, a yellow one. My dad had got it was 1970. It was brand new from a dealer in Fargo, North Dakota. It had a 4-speed six-pack.
I had an Impala.
We had
My
that
mom had an
for
Impala.
years. And I tried to buy it. My dad ended up selling it to somebody.
How do you try to buy a car at 16?
Would have liked to have it. So then I found another car exactly like this car about 4 or 5 years ago. Vitamin C Plymouth Superbird, 4-speed with the 6-pack in it, and it's pretty much identical to that car. So I ended up buying that car. And then there was a Daytona, a white fin and a white interior. We first got married. We've seen this car used. It had like 3,200 miles on it. We had it for a little while, and then we started farming. We needed money for farming, so I sold it to my brother. A few years ago, I bought a car similar to that with a white fin, and it was red, Daytona. Anyway, I bought it for her, so. And then we have another red Superbird, Tor red, but it's kind of like a Hemi orange. So we got 2 Superbirds and these 2 Daytonas.
We have 4 kids, and they all want this car. So we thought we bought 3 more, and we can just each have one, you know. So.
I don't need that. All I do is think about driving into oncoming traffic. The more I hear, I'm just finished with that stuff. So you guys can finish up your little interviews and all your little happy crap and send it to the network. M-O-O-N, that spells cut.
The clients finally got to drive their Charger Daytona. It was so awesome seeing the looks on their face. You could just tell they were happy.
Oh, the heater works. I can feel heat. You ready? Just like I remember. Yes. It shines, and it's really pretty.
I have to say it looks better than it did when it come from the factory.
I think it looks amazing. No, you can't say you're not spoiled.
Yeah, it's run nice.
Sounds good. I'll tell you what, I don't think the paint looked this good when you had it
No.
new.
It had a few flaws, you know, even when I got it brand new. Right now, you don't see any flaws. It looks just like showroom, like it's out from the factory.
It looks better than the factory.
Yeah, it does.
Oh, you gotta punch it now that you got this thing going by you.
He's wanting to race.
Yeah, he's wanting to race.
I don't think it was worth keeping it as a survivor.
The original engine had already been stolen, so.
It's excellent, I have to say.
Perfect.
Yeah. I don't want to take it too far.
Oh, why not? You gotta test it out.
Don't want to get it dirty.
I don't want to get it dirty either.
We're going to take it to some shows, and we're going to drive it, you know, a little bit. You know, not a lot, but we'll be able to drive it, you know.
Show it off.
Yep.
It's a pretty car. Don't hit any rocks. We don't want to chip the paint. Well, you should be happy about this one.
Yeah. Oh, I'm very happy, yeah.
Excited. How fast do you think it'll go?
It'll go plenty fast.
Well, you're not gonna take it up to 160 and blow it up again.
No.
Kind of blew it up a couple times racing.
Yeah.
So it did get put in the sheds.
It was like when we were kids, you'd go out and you'd have Hemi-Cudas and Judges and all different kinds of cars, and you'd go out in the back roads in North Dakota, you know, you'd end up racing, and top end, it was pretty fast, yeah.
I can't wait to get it home. From the start, working with Mark has been really good. Never had a problem. He's always been really, really good about getting it done. So can you two stand in front of the car and I get a picture?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Do that.
Yes.
Great. Thank
Got
you.
it. Yeah, you bet. You bet.
Yeah, thanks, Mark.
Oh, man,
Of course, absolutely.
it's nice. I really appreciate all the hard work they've done and how nice it's turned out.
We do.
I'm
Yep.
real happy. I'd like to thank all of them
Yes.
for what they've done. It's exactly how I wanted it to turn out for him. It's quite the car. I can't believe his dad bought it for him. And it's just
They did
amazing.
a really good job.
Yes. Great place.
Greatly appreciate it.